Welcome to the Warrior Gamer Headquarters Podcast. It is my distinct honor to introduce this episode's guest.
I was fired from the Navy. I was administratively separated after being number one for most of my career. Made a very human mistake and I paid for it with my career. I absolutely hit rock bottom. I hit that dark place. And like you said, I just didn't stay there. And I didn't know it wasn't a conscious choice. I didn't know what was pulling me out of it, but something was. I was literally sitting at my desk at the VA at work, and I said, oh my God, I'm in a crisis right now. My hands were shaking. I was like sweaty. I just, heard something that like I couldn't believe this guy just said that to me. Like literally left a sticky on my note on my desk saying something very inappropriate to me. I want to learn how to meditate. What's meditation? I had never really done it. And that was where it started, and very simple, just sitting with myself, sitting with the feelings, sitting with the pain, and then gathering additional tools to kind of help myself out of those places, out of those dark places. Now that I know what to do, how do I use that to support my purpose? What is my purpose? How do I want to move through the world and show up in the world? How do I want to serve, continue to serve? Because I feel like all of us are here in some capacity to serve. But now, how can I use this experience for me to help others, to end someone's suffering, to guide them towards their light, or to share something that I have learned along the way? So, hi everyone, I'm Tammy D'Alesandro. I am a Navy veteran. I transitioned from the Navy in 2019, and I say transition when literally I was asking myself, okay, how do I say this? And I heard it's your chance to say it because this is real and very, it's been a really real and raw journey for me. I was fired from the Navy. I was administratively separated after being number one for most of my career. Made a very human mistake and I paid for it with my career. And I landed out of the Navy in a really bad way because of it. And so I have been on a track of rebuilding myself since that happened. I am a mom, I'm a grandmother. I have two little grandbabies that I just left. Actually, I saw them, I was with them for the last month or so and just spent some really beautiful time with them. I spent 11 years in the Navy. I thought it was going to be my career. I thought I'd retire from the Navy, but life had something else planned for me, and I'm grateful for it because it has connected me with a part of myself that was very lost and disconnected from me. And that's, a big part of my story and how I ended up here on this podcast is through my story, through whole health and how I discovered, this amazing program that the VA has for veterans to kind of help them discover who they are, what matters to me, how do I want to heal, how do I want to grow, how do I want to develop post military, because so many of us come out with no idea, what that looks like, who we are, what we love. I was just talking right before this about, I wanted to be a doctor my whole life. And, I get to do a little bit of that work now because that's what matters to me is healing and helping people grow and discover who they are. So, right now, I am exploring that. I'm traveling. I'm doing a lot of work in the mindfulness field. I got some certifications when I got out in mindfulness and meditation and all the things that I was learning through the VA whole health program. Things that I said, oh my God, another veteran is going to really be able to use this, and I want to make sure that I'm equipped to share it. And so I was, kind of my own case study, but I was also learning and getting all this knowledge so that I could share it with others. And that's part of what I do now. And my mission is really serving. I'm continuing to serve, which is amazing because I didn't know what that would look like, after being separated from the military and thinking that was my path, that I was going to be, whatever rank I got to and retire and live happily ever after. And it's been everything but that, except that I am finding my happily ever after just in a very, very different way. And so I'm grateful, I'm grateful for it all, for the opportunity to be here and to share my experiences and, hopefully to save someone's life or change a life, or whatever that looks like. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, we honor you for coming on the show and being so forward and upright with us. And it's that's a great trait to have. When folks come out and they give their all, the genuineness and authenticity is very palatable. And we're very honored to have you here. We're excited. And I definitely want to dig deep into your experiences, in particular, the transition that you had and how tough it was, but how you went to mindfulness. And thank God you had that motivation, right? To instead of going down into a very dark place and stay there, you chose to bring yourself out. And you mentioned that VA had an integral role in that. So would you mind speaking a little bit about that?
Oh, I would love to. I absolutely hit rock bottom. I hit that dark place. And like you said, I just didn't stay there. And I didn't know it wasn't a conscious choice. I didn't know what was pulling me out of it, but something was. I feel like there was, I am one of the things that I saw a lot on, in your mission and what you do is building this resilience, right, for veterans. And I feel like there was always this underlying resilience that was just there. And when I needed it, it really pulled me out of a dark place. And I was there. And that was the moment for me. And I remember I was in a crisis, literally in a crisis. And the VA has the crisis line, right? And it's such an interesting story. I had gotten out of the military, gotten out of the Navy, and I was fortunate enough to find a really good job at a company in the DC area. So I was doing some government consulting, and believe it or not, I was consulting for the VA. So I'm sitting in a VA office, and I had, so many, and I asked myself, how raw are you going to get, Tammy? How real are you going to get? I said, well, this is it. I don't have anything to hide. This is my story, right? This is really what happened. And I had been getting some very inappropriate comments from some guys at work. Um, and it just took me back to a place in the military where that happened to me there. And I was literally sitting at my desk at the VA at work. And I said, oh my God, I'm in a crisis right now. My hands were shaking. I was like sweaty. I had just, heard something that like I couldn't believe this guy just said that to me. Like literally left a sticky on my note on my desk saying something very inappropriate to me. And I just went back to my desk and I was just sitting there, kind of shaking like, and I picked up the phone because I was at the VA and I saw my screensaver and the crisis line, the VA crisis line was on my screen. And right there, I picked up the phone and I called the crisis line at work at the VA. Um, and I'm so grateful for that moment. I remember it like it was yesterday, but they immediately connected me with the VA. And I hadn't done a lot with the VA yet. Like I had been rated, but I hadn't gone for any care or anything. And so that moment for me was getting connected with my PCM. That was kind of the first stop, and they connected me with mental health services. And from there, I feel like everything else was just really beautifully aligned because I got connected with a PCM who really took her time when I finally went in and asked me, what do you want? How do you want to heal? How do you want to move through this pain and through whatever you're dealing with? How do you want to do that? And it was very clear to me. I wanted it to be very holistic. I had done a lot of numbing, I had done a lot of drinking, I had done a lot of the stuff that I didn't want to do anymore. And I shared that with her. I said, I want to do this as holistically as possible because I know, um, not only do I know because I'm a veteran and because I know what I did for the Navy in terms of my ethic and my leadership and my responsibilities, but because I know as a person the resilience that is is within me. And so I know I have the ability to pull myself out of this. I just need some tools, right? I just need to know how to do that. And so they connected me with the whole health program. And that's really like where my journey began. And I did an interview with them about a year after I got connected with them, and I told them on that interview, this program changed my life. It saved my life because I remember, being in that dark space thinking, I don't want to be here. I don't want to live this way. I don't want to feel this pain, the shame, the embarrassment, the guilt. What if I hadn't done this? What if I had, just over and over and over in my mind, and it wouldn't stop, until it pulled me into that dark place. And I didn't have the tools, or at least I didn't know I had the tools to bring myself out of that until the VA, showed me through whole health that I do. It's through mindfulness, it's through understanding, what matters to me, the power of my mind, the power of my thoughts, how important my health was to me. And that was really important to me as well. A healthy, whole, fit, body that could take me through however long I have left, and so it became a staple for me. But it really started this journey of reclaiming myself, started with that crisis line call.
Wow. That's the irony in there is like it's like
You got it,
destiny.
right? You
Yeah.
got it. It was very, I'm just like, wait a minute. Literally looking at my computer screen and it said, "Are you a veteran in crisis?" And I was like, that's me. Let me call this, these 3 digits. And I hit them and it changed everything.
We get a lot of bad stories about the VA. We don't get enough good ones, and I think this is a good one. And I love this. And the VA has been working so hard over the past few years, and they have made huge strides. I am actually really proud of them right now, and I think they're only going to go up, especially with a new funding boost. So pretty happy about that. What do you think, April?
Oh, I think this is fantastic. And thank you. Like second Ken's thanks and your authenticity and your willingness to share your story. That's what we hope. We hope more people who hear this podcast will look in the mirror and say, "Hey, if Tammy can do it, I can do it. I can just make that call. I got here's the numbers, and I can make that call too." And I would ask of those tools that you learned in the program, what tools do you think you found the most accessible when you were at a darker space? Sometimes people give you bright-eyed, bushy-tailed tools that just don't resonate from where you're at. But for folks who are right in crisis right now, what tools were initially like? What's that ranking of order that you would put them in?
I'd say, I just want to first just kind of comment quickly on what Ken said. I am absolutely a VA good news story. Like, I love that about my VA journey, that because I heard some horrible things about it myself. I was very hesitant. I'm like, I don't want to go to the VA. I heard about the VA, and I'm so grateful to be able to say I am a VA good news story. I've had such wonderful support and experiences. I'm almost like, wait a minute, like, am I the kind of the odd one out, because I've been so well supported and taken care of by like my entire VA team for the last 5 years. It's been amazing. So I just want to echo that because it is important, right? We need to share these stories. There are a lot of, I hear about all the bad stuff, but I am absolutely a good news story. So just wanted to echo that. But I'd say for me, the kind of the order of it, or where I find the most, or where I have found the most impact from the tools. Initially, when I started, it was really in the very kind of beginning stages of meditation and mindfulness, and what that meant for me, and really even not even meditation, mostly mindfulness. I got really clear about what that meant, and for me, it meant fully accepting this present moment just as it is, And so many of us don't want to feel that, we don't want to feel that pain. We don't want to feel it doesn't feel good, right? And then you don't have a safe space to share it, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And so I got really comfortable, and that was one of the first things I learned. I got really comfortable with the present moment being whatever it was, and that didn't happen overnight, but it was a tool that I knew I could use. And I learned ways to do that. I took lots of classes. At one point during my corporate career, I ended up going out on short-term disability after all the stuff happened and the crisis line call. And I was at work and I remember saying to myself, I'm literally sick at work, mentally sick at work. And I needed to take some time off to address that. And to me, it felt no different than me having a physical impairment, an injury or back pain. My mind was very sick. And here I was showing up at work, getting paid very well to do a job that I wasn't fully, I wasn't at my full capacity because I was in my mind most of the time in a very, unhealthy way. And so I took about 8 months off work. And during that time, I went all in on whole health and on Tammy and on, what mattered to me. I really did some deep diving into, okay, I have this program that is offering me this opportunity to change my life, to transform it. Do I want to stay here at rock bottom? Because I can, we can choose that. Or do I want to change it? And I made a decision. It was important to me to change that for myself, for my children, for for whoever was watching. And so mindfulness became a really, really important tool for me. And then mindfulness opened the doors, to all the other kind of phases of, okay, now I want to learn how to meditate. What's meditation? I had never really done it. And that was where it started, and very simple, just sitting with myself, sitting with the feelings, sitting with the pain, and then gathering additional tools to, kind of help myself out of those places, out of those dark places. I really wanted to do it myself. I knew that I could. Like, give me the tools. Let me do this. I'm a freaking veteran, right? I can do this. I can do this. I've done hard things. And it's been challenging, it still is. 5 years later, I still have to remember that I have this toolbox, that I don't, have to keep going into the mind. The mind does not control me. I am a free and sovereign being, and I have tools and I have support, I have community, and I get to use that. And many of us don't know that we have a lot of this stuff already, in us. It's really about whole health. For me, was unlocking that. It was like showing me that I can, be present. I can eat healthy foods. I can get good sleep and rest, and I can spiritually connect with a higher purpose, with what matters to me. I'm just kind of thinking about the whole health circle right now. I can have good connections, with my friends and family and coworkers. And the whole health program did a really good job of that with all the tools that they have to get me there.
Blah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. And you hinted at it with everything that you were talking about just now. But one thing that I may have mentioned in episodes prior is that when we're in a dark space and we have nowhere to go, we take what we can find because we know the alternative is not going to be great. That is to say that motivation is brought out by desperation. But then eventually, you see the light at the end of the tunnel. The desperation, so to speak, ends. Where then do you draw your motivation?
After the desperation ends, at that point for me, it becomes, what do I want most? Who do I want to show up in the world as? That's what it's become for me. Because I know I have this bigger mission, which had to kind of unfold and happen when Kim mentioned, all the things that kind of came together for me. I'm like, wait a minute. So I believe this was supposed to happen. I don't believe I was supposed to be there for 20 years, or I would be. So then it became kind of this deeper spiritual connection for me. Okay, what is my bigger purpose in the world? What is it that I'm really here to do? And that then became what keeps me going, in a way, because it's no longer about desperation, because it's no longer about the struggle and, oh my God, I'm in a bad place and what can I do now? It's about, okay, now that I know what to do, how do I use that to support my purpose? What is my purpose? How do I want to move through the world and show up in the world? How do I want to serve, continue to serve? Because I feel like all of us are here in some capacity to serve. I remember mentioning this and asking a group. I was hosting a call, and I asked them, I said, name a career, a job, a profession, any profession that you can think of right now where we are not in service to another human being. And no one could come up with a job, because everything that we do, from someone said politician, I'm like, nope. Even though you may not like the way they're serving, they are in service. Right? There were some people were mentioning, animal veterinarians and animal. I'm like, well, that's still in service to a human on some level, right? Because those are pets we have taken, and so I feel like everything that we do, everything that we're placed on this planet to do when we came here is about service. And so then for me, it just became, what does that service look like? From this place of desperation and struggle and pain, now how can I serve? How can I show up? How can I use this experience? Because I know it happened for me. Now I know that. I didn't know that at first, because it was all like, oh my God, this is happening. But now, how can I use this experience for me to help others, to end someone's suffering, to guide them towards their light, or to share something that I have learned along the way?
I think that's the path to success. And I've dealt with so many folks now, especially after having retired. Like, um, if folks are so caught up in their identity at that moment and they refuse to change or to see, like, hey, okay, this situation's happening to me. What's unique about this that I can make me someone who's so unique that going through this experience makes me the only person in the world and I can offer something out of it. That's the pathway to happiness, fulfillment, joy, and success. Where the other way is like, no, this should have been this way. And I mean, I see it now. It's so clear. And I'm so happy for you that you realize, like, hey, I'm here to serve, and I'm going to take these circumstances and make it work. I think that's just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like one of the biggest struggles we face, after we leave that service, that level of service in the military, is what now? Who am I now? What do I do now without the uniform, without the rank, without the, all the all the commas and titles? And I was collecting those. I was looking recently, just a few days ago, I had written a note that I was trying to create my bio. And so I'm like, okay, let me write down all the stuff that I did. And I was like, oh my goodness, after I looked at all these, the collateral duties and all the schools they sent me to, and all the, all these things that we then carry, these roles and titles. And then when you come out, yeah, some of it you can use, but most of it is very military specific. And so it's like, okay, now what? And what I discovered, the truth is that I was always more than that. Then I was always more than the uniform. I was always more than the title. I was a leader. I was a strategist. I was a problem solver. I was using all these skills all along. They were just, covered up and named something else. And those skills still exist within us. They're still a part of us. And many of us came with these stories and unique experiences. One of the things I loved the most about serving is the diversity of the people that I got to serve with. I was just like, I was at one point I was diversity officer and did a lot of equal opportunity stuff, and it just amazed me at these different perspectives. I took a training once that I remember so clearly. It was called Appreciating Differences. And this training stood out to me because I was able to see my sailors and even the civilians and people I was working with as this unique blend, this mix of all kinds of things that I could appreciate about them. And the military puts us in a uniform, right? Especially women. We talk about that real quick. They make us pull our hair back, and we don't get to really express that feminine side, and our feminine essence gets kind of drowned out by all the strength and the masculinity, and we must go the mission, right? And so even for me coming out as a female, like, okay, now how do I connect with that side of me, that soft side of me, that grandmother that I have become now, and this place that I've never gotten to explore fully, and how do I do that? And so I don't know, it's just been such an interesting journey. One of the other parts of the circle that I really, and I did an interview about this, and I believe you all saw this one, was my personal development story. And personal development for me became another of like one of my tools, but it also became like this lifelong part of me developing personally. And what that meant to me was it went deeper than setting a goal, learning a new skill, learning a hobby, taking a course. This was really about, what I started with. Who am I? How do I want to show up in the world? And then how do I develop that person? How do I show more of her to the world? And I had to get to know her first. And I'm still getting to know her because I had no idea who she was. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. One of the things I tell my students all the time is you get what you expect.
Yeah.
No variation on that. So when you said you are at the DEI office, I'm very, very cognizant of not letting my kids say the world is like X. I'm just going to prepare for X. I want them to know the world is what you think it's going to be, and the world is what you visualize and what you put out there. You're a reflection of what you see. And I'm wondering what advice you might have for women who are in the military, particularly women of color, who are facing sort of it's a situation where they have more to deal with than the average Joe, and figuring out how to navigate that. Maybe you have some advice for those who are in there right this red hot minute.
I do. And now you've hit the button, because this is, I talked about my purpose, and this is now this is it. And so I actually recently started a group specifically for female veterans. I was looking for community. I can't stress enough how grateful I am for spaces such as this, for veterans to have a space, a community, gamers, right? I'm not a gamer. I mean, I played Nintendo and Donkey Kong and Pac-Man, and back in the day I had a Sega Genesis. Right, I had those things. But my son is actually a gamer. It was, and I shared with him I was going to be on this podcast, and he just kind of lit up, which was pretty cool. Um, but I was looking for community, and I'm actually a meditation teacher on an app called Insight Timer. I don't know if any of you have ever heard it, but it's a meditation app. And so I went to that app when I got out of the military, and that's where I spent a lot of my time finding meditations and mindfulness things that the Navy didn't, or the VA didn't provide for me. And so that was a beautiful community, but also there weren't a lot of veterans there, not that I could see or find. And so even in those spaces, I was, sharing little bits of my journey and my story. And I feel like they were supportive of it, and they understood it to an extent. But there's always that, like, you don't quite get this, right? You don't quite understand unless you've been in that organization or in that uniform. You just don't get it. And um, I think that's even more clear and more felt by women, and especially women of color, minority women, because we have the additional kind of weight of, okay, not only can I show who I fully am, but now I have to kind of blend in and not be in the fullness of, whatever that looks like. And I'm a Black girl, and I am a Black girl with joy, and I love to dance and sing and do all these things. And I didn't do a lot. I didn't show that side of me. I don't even show a lot of that in my personal life. And that's not fair to me, right? For me not to be able to be fully who I am, I don't wish that on anyone. And so I was looking for this community of, okay, so where can I go find, female veterans that I can talk to about, something as fun as like, what do you like to do for fun? Or, how do you show more of yourself to the world? All the way to something very difficult and hard for us to talk about, like military sexual trauma. Like there was no space for that. Those conversations weren't happening anywhere, not to the extent that it was understood and can be felt by these women. And so I said, okay, I can't find the community, I'm going to create it. And so I created a group of women, and it's slowly building, where we could just have space to connect, where we could share stories. I could talk about some of the things that I have learned and share tools. And so that space for me is really, really, it's really a part of my mission, just because we do have that additional, weight of, not only am I in this uniform, but I'm a woman in this uniform in an organization that really wasn't built for me to thrive as a woman. And yes, we go in there and we do amazing things, right? I was an officer, so I was a leader. I was moving up the ranks. I was in charge of things. I was leading departments, and all of these things. And I know some amazing officers that were mentors for me, but I don't feel like they were at their capacity. They were capped in a way. There was only so much you could do, for whatever reason. I don't need to get into the details about that, because each person has their own personal story about, what they felt and what they were, or any limitations they felt. But I know personally, I spent a lot of time just, what do I need to do to get to the next rank? What do I need to do? What are the boxes I need to check off, to get there? And I don't think expressing my whole feminine self would have been one of those, those boxes to check off, because then you're overly emotional, or you're, whatever it is, whatever the labels are. And so when we come out now, it's like, okay, now I get to explore this side of me, as I was saying earlier. And I'm so disconnected from it, and I was probably already disconnected from it before I even came in, to the military, due to conditioning and what society wants me to be and what I'm able to be. And so that just, it's like these layers just get deeper and deeper, and we're under all these layers. And so I feel like for me, it's been just literally taking off the layers, and they're still coming off, April. They are still coming off. I'm just like, whoa, there's another one.
I love that. Congratulations. I mean, there's nobody who code switches better than women in the
Right.
military. I'm telling you. I'm so proud of you for shedding those layers and being yourself, and embracing that journey, and then teaching others and building that community. Anything that we can do to help on that front, I'm sure Ken and Bilal and I and everyone at Warrior Gamer are all in, whether it's a gaming competition for women in the military, or whatever you can think of. You need, let us know how we can help. Like I said, my mom was a Marine, in '63. Tried 3 times until she got in. So this community needs you personally. There's something you bring to this world that is unique. So thank you so much for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I know I may not be a gamer in that sense, right? But I am definitely, I know about teamwork, I know about strategy, and, finding those little, oh, let me find, a way in. I know about that. I know about resilience. I feel like there's this universal theme, especially for veterans, of resilience. I remember when I was working my corporate job, I had started doing a lot of this stuff at work. When I came back from my short-term disability, I said, wow, I'm going to start sharing some of this at work. And I'm grateful for the company I was working for. They were like, go for it, share it, like, so I would hold, these little mindfulness sessions and share with a small group, those people that were interested. And what I found, even in that world, that corporate world, and the company I was working for actually had a huge veteran population. So it was in the DC area, and a large portion of their employees were veterans. And I was just fortunate enough to be in that role. Again, one of the things that kind of lined up as I got out. But I remember saying and feeling for people, especially like during the pandemic, I was in all of that. All of that was happening all at the same time. And I remember feeling like this resilience and understanding though that it was a muscle, that it wasn't something that I would innately know how to use, that it was something that I would have to train, no different than my training in the Navy, no different than any other training that I had done, that this muscle was very present. It was there, but it was weak. It was a very weak muscle. I had some other muscles that were stronger, right? Showing up, leading, teamwork. But that resilience muscle, that okay, how do I, as Bilal said, what gets me past the desperation? What keeps me going? It was resilience. And I know we all have that. We just need safe spaces and tools to help us build that muscle. No different than going in the gym, no different than getting on a space and being in a, in a gaming community and getting better and better at this game. So you're leveling up, right? Same thing. You got to get, this experience allows us the opportunity to continue to build that muscle. And it's all a choice, like I know this kind of sounds cliche, but I just have to say it's a choice, right? I could have continued to suffer as we start kind of full circle moment. The difference between me choosing to stay in that dark place or being in that dark place and coming out of it was I made a choice. I said, okay, I can't live like this. I know what this feels like. Now I want to see what it feels like to be whole and healed and present. And 5 years later, I am, still working at it, but it's the muscle is getting stronger. It's really getting stronger. And it's like we can all do that. We're built for this. We're built to thrive, not just survive. And that's one of the key messages that I have is that we're built for more than, surviving or, what's the bare minimum that I can do to just get by. We're actually built like veterans to me, like, oh my gosh, I could do a whole podcast on how amazing veterans are, and that small number of us that have served and held our hand up and said yes to serving the country. I remember having a CEO, one of my commanding officers, not a CEO, but one of my commanding officers would start. And it was actually the Surgeon General of the Navy. I was at Navy headquarters when my career ended, and he used to always bring the officers in and talk to us, and you're one of the 1%. And I was just like, wow, 1%. I was so like blown away by that, like how special am I? And then after I got out, I was like, yeah, I was special, all right, like 1% of those who were brave enough, who were whatever you want, however you want to look at it. But we're such a special group of people. A lot of employers know that. That's why they want to hire us, right? They know we come equipped with skills, with with that. I'm gonna do there. That veteran is gonna show up. Yeah, I may have to deal with some stuff,
Yeah.
but for the most part, I know that they're gonna show up. I know that they're gonna do the right thing, and I know that veterans in general are. That's who we are. That's just who we are. So.
Make everybody else better too. That's
Yeah,
with
absolutely. I
Tammy.
love when someone says thank you for your service. It's like it just feels like a hug, to me, because I'm like, yeah, I did. I did do that. I did serve, right? And again, to tie it in, I know I'm here to continue to serve. And so, yeah, I want to keep hearing that. That feels good. Thank you for your service. That feels
Thank
really
you.
good.
That's great. So this one had a lot of good nuggets. I was listening, taking notes and everything.
Wow.
We appreciate it so much. It's a different flavor of a podcast. I liked it, and I think it's going to have some good info for folks. And certainly our VA friends are going to love it, and they're going to love you. And we're really happy to have you. And I'm thrilled at the story. Um, we get a lot of opposite stories, and if they could just hear you speak, I think you can turn around a lot of trajectories. And hopefully, this platform will give it to you, and hopefully, whatever you're doing, also keeps increasing in depth and scope and reach as well. And any parting questions for April or Bilal?
I have one I always ask. I'm curious. So there are people out there right now. What resources would you recommend they turn to? What books, what podcasts? Who should they search on YouTube to listen to from your specific point of view?
So I actually do a lot on Insight Timer. I'm going to talk about it just because I'm a teacher on that app, and it, again, it was my landing place after I got out of the military, and then I became a teacher on that app, and I'm actually hosting some sessions coming up. I found that community was really important, and there's a really supportive community there. So if they're looking for a space where they can, kind of, and what I liked most about it was whatever you were dealing with at the time, whether that was stress or anxiety or, I can't sleep. There was something for that I could find all in one place without having to search YouTube and, figure out who to believe or who to trust. That space just became, really, it was like a social media for me because I was scrolling, who can I connect with today on Insight Timer? So I'll always recommend that space. And I also want to bring more veterans to that space because it was so supportive for me. I've had some conversations with their leaders when I was in my corporate job about kind of building out a space. And so that's another kind of one of the things that I want to do in the world is bring more veterans into these spaces that were supportive for me, where community is, already built. And so I would say that's one. I don't listen to a lot on YouTube just because there's so much. Like I feel like wellness and health and mindfulness and all the things in general have become so complex, right? We've made something that has been a part of us since we were born. I mean, we were all born with all these tools. We just, we got told who we were here to be instead of being able to explore that organically. And I feel like it's gotten so complex. So I keep things very simple and just remember basic stuff like breathing. I remember sharing a wellness session or at my job, and before every meeting, I recommended that they just pause to breathe for 5 minutes before they launch into the meeting. And you'd be surprised at what these leaders, these managers were like. 5 minutes to breathe? Why, I never thought of that. Thank you for reminding us to breathe. And it was something as simple as like, just take 5 minutes and let people breathe. And so anything dealing with breath work, I highly recommend because this breath, this free gift, this life force has been with us since we took our first breath, is really what sustains our life. And so many of us are just like so disconnected from our breath. And it's such a gift, it's a tool. And at any moment we can turn to it, even though it's happening, right? We're not consciously choosing to breathe, but it's such a beautiful way to get like quickly connected with yourself without having to look for it. It's right there, it's happening. Just tune into it. So I'd say anything that you can find, that brings you back to the simplicity of your breath, of the present moment, reminding you of, who you are. And I'll leave it with, kind of purpose. I feel like many of us, especially veterans, are searching for that purpose. What is it that I'm here to do? Especially after, what now? What do I do? And what I have found is you don't find that. It's not out there. It's you remember it. Remember who you are. You remember what you're here to do. It's inside you, buried under all the layers, right? The years of conditioning and being in survival mode and putting up with a lot of stuff and the expectations and the climb, the achievements. And to me, the work isn't about chasing that down, about looking outside yourself for it. It's really about getting really quiet enough to hear it again, to let that kind of emerge from you. And that's why I love mindfulness and breath work because it lets us slow down, and really there's such a fast-paced, chaotic, world that we're living in right now. So any opportunity that I can take and that I can encourage others to take to just simply slow down, just slow down, take a breath. Start there. Start everything with that. Just pause and take a breath. Get in your body. Remember who you are. Remember that you're okay. You can do this. So
I love that. Thank you so much. I was listening to one podcast on Gaia, Gaia. That's a
oh
channel
yeah.
I really like. And they said every day you wake up, you've put 5 more hours on your life expectancy because of the rate at which technology is moving forward in terms of healthcare and things. Like Ken's smiling down there.
Yeah. Wow.
So then I celebrate waking up every morning. I'm like, I did it. I'm
I
up.
know. I have 10 words that I say every single morning when I wake up. 10 words. Thank you, God, for another day. Thank you for this blessed day. I mean, I'm shortening it, but I really start the day in this gratitude that I'm awake, that I have another day, another moment to show up. But I immediately kind of open my eyes and just like, whew, okay, another day. And what is this day going to bring? How is it going to unfold? And that's been a beautiful part of the journey is like seeing what's going to unfold for me for the day. But first, being in gratitude for it. So, yeah, I love that.
Absolutely fantastic. I could talk to you all day long. So I know Ken wants to have dinner and hug his kids.
Oh,
This
man.
is great. I mean, kids go to school and they don't learn these things, and
Mm.
so it's unfortunate. So certainly, this should definitely be on the curriculum for everything. And I was thinking, um, just how much better this would be if this is part of being in the military versus coming out of the military. I really don't like that we have a VA and a DoD. It's so dumb. It should be one thing. So they understand the cost of warfare and large standing armies. So take to the street to someone else. So I loved it. I love so much, and it's been great. Bilal, we covered a lot, so I'll be surprised if he has
Yeah,
anything.
I
Like
don't have
he's
much to
clever.
add. I just want to thank you and acknowledge you for coming onto our podcast and speaking with the level of love, compassion, and wisdom that you did. It's clear that you bring a lot of experience, knowledge, and true understanding of what it takes to heal and push forward. And I'm sure those who are listening will see that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I sat before I came, I grounded, kind of got into the body. I said, what do I want them to feel? And you just summed it up. If you felt it, then it worked because
Yeah.
that's exactly what I wanted, to feel the vulnerability of me sharing this very, kind of painful thing, but also the way that I have been able to move through that and from that with love and compassion and grace mostly and first and foremost for myself because I had to start with me. Any healing that is going to take place outside of me or with someone else starts with me. When I become whole or realize that I'm whole because I already am, it's not something I become. I'm just maybe disconnected from my wholeness. But when I can do that, then others can do that because they can see me. And as Ken said, wow, I can do that too. If Tammy can do it, because if Tammy can do it, then I can do it. I am you. We are the one. We are the same. We're one.
Love it. Well, with that awesome outro comes ours, and we appreciate it so much again. And with that, Warrior Gamer Headquarters podcast out.
Right around the time that I had scheduled these sessions, and so I had to postpone those. And so I'm going to start those again, where I'm just talking more about whole health and how people can get connected, and how it's impacted me, sharing my story. I've spoken with the VA and told them I'm going to do it, and they're like, okay, as long as you don't sell it. I'm like, no, I don't want to sell it. It's not mine. I don't have any intentions of selling it. I just want more veterans to know about it because
Yeah,
they don't know it's a benefit. It's available to them if they're
that's
getting VA healthcare. And so I want to share more about that. But even beyond that, everything whole health related, the VA has it all out there on the web. Like it's their entire program is on the internet.
mm,
And what I found though, and I don't know take this for what it's worth, is that it's so much information. So if someone, that's why I wanted to start sharing, kind of personally how I use it. Because if you're a veteran who is like, like we said, if you're just getting started or you're in a, what do I do? And you go to VA Whole Health, it's just like this soup. And they kind of tell you, okay, start here, start with the personal health assessment. But then from there, you just see all this stuff. Right? And they just put it all out there, I guess, so they can say that it's available to veterans, but it's just a lot of information.
Yeah,
And I
it's too
know it can
much.
be it's very, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
overwhelming. And I don't want veterans to be any more overwhelmed than they already are trying to find health or wellness, like that's kind of the opposite. It's like I'm going to settle my mind by going into this overwhelming website.
Yeah, by
Right? It's
next
possible.
year, like all this is going to go away. It's going to be all AI based. I mean,
Yeah.
what
That'll
I've
be
been developing and what I've seen out there is just absolutely spectacular, incredible.
yeah.
I gotta go. I got kiddos that I gotta
All
put
right,
down,
Ken.
but
Nice.
I appreciate it, guys. Have a
Yeah,
good
same
night.
here. Thank you for
Thank
having
you
me.
so
Yep.
much. Thank you,
Okay.
Tammy.
Take
Thank you,
care.
Tammy.
Okay. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank